We now move on to our industry panel. Here, we will discuss in more detail and look in more detail at the digital transformation journey in construction. Our panelists will explore how they planned, executed, and either underwent or are undergoing their current transformations, providing real-world examples along the way. I'll be moderating this, and we have joining us Rukesh Raghubir. He is CEO at M&D Construction Group. Mark Hornet. Mark is a seasoned procurement systems and business process manager. Charl van Schalkwyk, Roads and Earthworks division financial manager from Raubex Group. And Thierry Nader, managing director at Man Enterprise. Rukesh, I'm going to start with you. What promoted you to start the digital transformation journey? Why did you think it was necessary for your company, and how do you feel it's helping you when you're dealing with your future plans around construction?
Rob, as you know, and as everyone knows, the construction space is extremely competitive and hasn't changed in the last few decades, maybe centuries. At M&D, we wanted to explore ways of being more competitive by eliminating risk, duplication of tasks, and to improve change management. We started our journey about 3 years ago, looking at what tools are available in the market to align with our vision of implementing an integrated system in our business. It has been a long and interesting experience, but we are now clear on what our needs are and what is the best solution for us. As an example, we've just appointed a VDC manager, which is a virtual design and construct manager, which I think is a new role for our business and the industry. And his role is to drive, to improve our projects by utilizing technology and making our clients' lives easier.
And Thierry, I think the same for you. What prompted you to start the journey?
First of all, I read a lot about technology, and once I was reading about the CEO of Nokia, and he gave a statement that we didn't do anything wrong, but somewhat we've lost. And I've realized that even if you're doing the good things and you're working as productive as you are, and you have the best team, and you're following the business model, etc. However, you don't know when the industry will be disrupted, and you don't know when you lose. So you have to zoom out and have another look at the industry and how it's moving and how the business model is changing. And then I thought we should create a business improvement team within our industry, and this is how we did. And we chose as an ERP Build Smart, which is CCS ERP, and we start our digitization journey and to move later on into digitalization and business transformation. So this is why we started.
Did it take you a while to kind of get your head around that difference between digitizing and digitalization and digital transformation? Because these are three terms that people use quite a lot, and they all mean slightly different things, but can cause confusion.
Yes, digitization is moving from analog to digital, means that from paper to digital, even depending on the countries, but even having an invoice as digital. While digitalization is using software tools and digital tools to be more productive and change the way how you work, while digital transformation or business transformation is about changing the whole business model and the experience. It's kind of Uberization, like Uber. It's a completely different experience, or removing the middleman. So that's the main difference between them. Even sometimes if you follow a digital transformation, you might find another experience that might be an asymmetric competitor to you. For example, iTunes was able to remove Sony Music, but later on Spotify removed iTunes. So they created another experience different than iTunes. iTunes removed the middleman, who was Sony Music, between the artists and the consumers. and he came the middleman. But Spotify changed the business model and the experience. So you have to always innovate, look how things are moving, especially in the industry. By the way, our industry started to see some new changing business model. For example, if you look at Catera in the United States, Catera is moving into modular construction. So it's going to remove the contractor and the designer and the consultant, because the client can go directly to a manufacturer and build their building. So he's kind of a symmetric competitor to the contractor, and they are creating the architectural engineering and construction platform, which one day might become the Android of the construction industry. And other industries are trying, like Autodesk.
Well, I mean, certainly you look at something like modular, that's going to bring a much more manufacturing and factory type processes into construction. It's going to mean that people have to plan and think much more upfront, because variation and change will be more difficult. And Mark, turning to you, now you've had quite a career in construction, I know. So when you're looking at these kind of changes, this digital transformation and the transformation really that Thierry alluded to, what kind of key points and milestones do you advise companies to make sure they're putting in place as they're starting to form that strategy?
From a management perspective, you need to know what holistic information you want to get out for a reporting function that's going to drive the business. You need to know who's going to own the project. Is it going to be at a board level? Is it senior management? Who will ensure that the project heads in the same direction as the company is moving? And who has that insight? So you need someone inside the business to drive the project and to coordinate and push it in the same direction as the
champion
company structure. That may be a senior person, or it may be somebody else who's just got a broad knowledge of the business. You may even bring somebody in from outside to do that, who's had experience in the past. But that person also needs to be able to form teams of champions from within the various departments. Okay. You also need to understand the business processes and how they interact with each other, how the information flows through the business. You know, what sort of documentation is used, what role it plays through the life cycle of the project. Because you'll be amazed at the amount of information that can be collected through a business, but it never actually does anything. It gets recorded, filed and forgotten, and it's the old analogy of rubbish in, rubbish out. And you also need to ensure that there's enough time and resources are given to the project. You need to put a timescale on it, but it needs to be realistic and achievable. And also you need to remember, most of the staff will be part of the project will also be doing their day jobs. So too short a timescale, and the team will feel under pressure to complete, and too long, and it will lose drive within the project.
Okay, so Charl, moving from what Mark has just said there about thinking about your timescales, thinking about who you should be involving, finding that champion, for yourself, what are the main benefits that you're starting to see from the transformation? How do you think it's benefiting your company?
Yeah, I think from the initial point of you have a disruption and you have a natural inkling to people almost going against this whole transformation and the project. But what we've noted is after a year or so, when everyone started taking ownership and they started feeling more included, so information was more readily available. And in fact, that resulted in more efficiency, quicker decision-making, better decision-making. And in the end, opportunities that previously was lost, you were able to realize it and measure it in the end.
And that's interesting, the measurable part, because again, that's something that often is an intangible that now you're saying you could actually measure. And did you find that helped your bottom line?
Definitely, because previously you had a project that ran and it was difficult to gather specific information where if it's in a data format, and if you already have a reporting format, you can just extract it, manipulate it quicker. I'll use a very, very easy example. Our month reporting was done in a way where it almost took 2 days from start to finish. After a year, it went down to 10 minutes, just because it went into a digital format where you extract, dump, boom, you have a report.
Okay, so moving, I mean, that's a very good real world example there. And Rukesh, moving back to you, did you start to see very quickly the ROI you were getting from your investment as you moved on with your digital transformation? And again, you know, are there tangible benefits you can talk about? You're muted.
I view technology as a deflationary tool, you know, where you're going to see the ROI. I mean, you're not going to be able to say, you know, we implemented this and this is exactly how much we got. It's more broad-based. Your ROI is going to be realized over time and in line with your goals, you know. But what's important, I think, is how you choose a software partner. I mean, we adopted an approach where we purchase software, you know, as a service. And when you choose a service provider, you basically say, you know, what is behind that company? Do they have the strength and the balance sheet and the will and investment to improve their software in line with the customer needs and the industry as a whole? I mean, as an example, we implemented BuildSmart, you know, 2 years ago. And our company has seen enormous benefit, you know, in the financial system. Our goal, our ultimate goal, I guess, is to get to a point where we only enter data once and we use this data across the company in some sort of platform or applications.
Okay, and actually it's interesting that you mentioned about finding the right partner, because certainly I've spoken to people who've said that that is so important, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you invest and then you don't have the support you require going, you know, when you're moving forwards and you're finding your way on this journey.
No, correct.
Thierry, now I know that you're in the process of implementing an ERP system at the moment. It's not finished. How have your early experiences been? How are you finding it's given you a competitive edge at the point where you've got it to, you know, are you seeing some early benefits?
Yes, the experience, it's exceptional, the benefits we are seeing. First of all, why choosing the software, you know, in the construction industry, it's all about productivity. The more productive your labor are and the better you are in time management, the more money you will make and the more happy the client is. However, to do so, you need to measure productivity on a day-to-day basis to be able to change strategy quickly if you have a problem. And to do so, you need to collect data. And this is the power of BuildSmart and BSmart and CCS software, where we were able to measure the daily productivity labors and how many labors I have on a project and how they are performing, what are their man hours. Because I have the complete time attendance that is connected to the job costing, that is connected to the quantity in Candy, and to the HR model in BuildSmart. So this is really powerful to be able to measure the productivity on a day-to-day basis. This is one benefit. The other benefit is when you have all your systems and all your workflows and all your codes and structures and assets on one software, you can mobilize quickly to any project. So whenever you sign a project, you don't have to teach your employee how to perform the job. Already there's a system in place that creates disciplines and that they can adapt quickly and move on. So this is really important as well. These some of the benefits. There are many other benefits as well, of course.
Okay, and Mark, moving to you now. Again, we've heard about the journey. We've heard about looking for the benefits, making sure you understand, making sure you treat your data well, which is going to become increasingly critical. So when you're advising people, what are you seeing in terms of how companies take their staff, their employees on this journey so that they understand this is to benefit them? It's not, you're not trying to ease them out of the door. You're not trying to make their life more difficult. Actually, what you're trying to do is enhance the processes? And if people are reluctant, how do you advise to bring them along?
Yeah, any digital transformation should be seen as a toolbox for the teams really to carry out their roles. Shared information provides up-to-date information. It's something that the individual and the team can act on really in a timely manner, which then means it reduces the risk, which some people feel that they're out on a limb some days working on something and not understanding that something had already changed. And that was in somebody else's data silo somewhere else on a different spreadsheet. The day-to-day may change because a new system will ask them to do things in a different way. But they should then see that it become more productive, and also it will bring a team together. I said earlier about getting a team together of people who can champion the project. Sometimes you look for that person that's really, really unsure about doing the change, and you get them on board. Once they see the benefits, they can sometimes have a bigger influence on the team. And also training. Training is a huge part of bringing in any new system. Training the team, training the individuals. The training, it equips the individuals and it allows them to grow in confidence as they then see the new system come onto their desktops.
Okay, thank you. I can see we've got a few questions coming in, but before we turn to those, Charl, I just want to ask you, are you frequently, do you have this kind of approach where you're systematically almost reviewing your digital strategy, so you always make sure you're on the right path, updating bits that maybe aren't so relevant, making sure you're focusing on the bits that where you're finding it is necessary and relevant?
Yeah, specifically with Raubex, it's a very decentralized group. So as it's like 24 operating companies, 3 divisions, each division has its own strategy, and each company specifically will be in a different stage of that transformation. But at a divisional level, definitely we look at it and we try to get a synergy in order to have certain transformation, digital transformation in place. Currently, just one example is, especially with the lockdown in South Africa, we had a situation where it was full-blown audit by the external auditors, and we were able to provide 5 years worth of invoices and documentation that was digital, document management system that was digital. So in the past, that would have been an extremely difficult time, and it was still difficult, but it was less of a disruption.
Okay, I've got a question here, which it's to Rukesh, but I think actually it's a question that we can probably spread to other members of the panel as well, which is when you embarked on the search for tools to digitalize your construction operations, what were your target problem areas, and how did you identify which tools you needed to help solve those challenges? Rukesh?
Yeah, look, yeah. So, I mean, for us, when you have a problem, you apply the 80-20 rule, okay? What are you going to do that's going to have the most impact? And I think in construction projects, change management is a major issue where a lot of money is made or lost in that process. Apart from, the other data capturing and, doing things once. For us, that was a big problem. And we went out to have a look, what's available. There's Procore as a system, M2 as a system. We went and had a look at how other companies are solving. Someone mentioned Katera. I mean, for anyone that knows what Katera does, it's mind-blowing, So, and we need to understand that as an industry, if we do not disrupt ourselves, someone else is going to come and do it for us. So, those are largely the problems that we were having, and we're trying to solve it. Again, coming back to saying, we want to be more competitive. How do we set ourselves apart from our competitors? And using technology, I believe, is an extremely important tool if applied correctly and buy-in from the employees in the company. We could have a major impact.
Thierry, I saw you unmute momentarily. Did you want to answer as well?
Yes, actually, I share the opinion of Rukesh. It's all about productivity. As I said before, the main driver is productivity. So data capturing is important, code instruction is important. However, I want to move forward towards that. For example, in the Middle East, we use the British system in measuring productivity. In the US, they go into what we call activity costing, like to build a column, it costs that much. While in Britain, they go into, I've spent this amount of time as laborers, this amount of formwork, this quantity of concrete, this quantity of steel, which is kind of different. And I've realized these differences between the American softwares and the European softwares. So we had to choose CCS because they cover both actually, and you can measure both. Another area to look into it is the support of the software, if it's good or not. The vision of the software developer. Are they looking at the same direction you are? Are they willing to develop and to follow the industry improvements? That's it. And I think CCS and RIP software, and with their move towards Schneider Electric as well, I think it's an area where they are willing to invest, and they are really creating a vertical ERP systems and vertical tools that cater to the construction industry and the whole life cycle of the construction industry. I think these are important area to look into. For example, I'm in contact with some CCS people to look into the last planner system and lean construction, which is an area as well important. And what tools do we need to cater to these needs? So thank you.
Okay, Thierry, let me keep you there, but I'm going to ask this final question to each of you individually, but I'll start with you, Thierry, as you're already here. For you, when you started, what would you, if somebody came to you and said, give me some advice, what would you consider the most important, that if you do nothing else, make sure you do this type of advice that organizations should think about to make sure they get to that successful end result?
Okay, first of all, you need to choose a person that is multidisciplinary and have knowledge area in finance, accounting, who can collect requirements, really requirements. Second of all, you need someone who can reduce the cultural shock or the cultural resistance that might happen, or the employees that you might face with the employees to adapt the software. So I think these are two major challenges that you would see in an industry that you need to cater for and mitigate. Second, you need to follow an inclusive leadership to maybe include in your meetings and in your vision the people on the ground, and empower them to let them feel that this is their baby, or this will make their life easier. So
okay, and Rukesh, yourself?
Just to maybe pick up a little bit, for us, it's quite simple. You have to involve as many people as practically possible when making the decision. Otherwise, you're not going to have buy-in, and it's going to be a failure.
Okay, thank you. Charl?
Well, for me, I agree with Thierry on the inclusive approach, but definitely you need to drive it from top management down. It shouldn't be a senior management thing. If you have a leader that's going to drive it, it's perfect. And then my first job when I started Raubex was actually being appointed to implement an ERP system. And I did some reading up about it because I'm exactly that kind of guy that Thierry said, with the financial background, etc. And what it basically said is the guys who implement the financial system, it's their job to do it. Data experts, they know what to do it. Leave them to do it and just assist them in order to ensure that the project will be a success in the end.
Okay. Mark, I think as you're answering, another question is coming that I think is interesting. So as you're answering that, also what somebody is asking is, during this transition, can it be a phased process?
When you're planning the whole thing, you need to plan for the dream. So look at the whole project. You can phase, but you need to be planning the whole project in one go. You'll be amazed at how when you get an all-encompassing system, that everything interlinks. And what you'll probably find when you phase it is that then all of a sudden you want that next part to come on board quicker than you thought. And then all of a sudden you want the next part to come on board. And then you get your teams that are saying, well, can't we have this as well? So actually, when you get the system coming through, yeah, you'll be amazed that actually your teams, your staff, I mean, you've got some amazingly talented people working for your companies, and for them to be able to grasp an all-in-one system which reduces risk for the business and gives you transparency across as well.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Really interesting. I think we got some very in-depth answers there, looking at the journey for digital transformation, who needs to be involved, what you need to think about, and how you go about it. And again, we heard some very early results there in terms of some of the benefits, you know, that makes it much more tangible when you're understanding and looking for some of the processes that you're looking into.